So week 3, we're here. We've been working on it this whole Love Yourself month, working on ourselves. And now week 3, we're going to start talking about principles and values and identifying what matters to us. And I just I always want to set the intention for what we're creating. And so just as a reminder, the intention that we're creating is that you can believe that you can do the impossible. We want to cement that belief into you. And I want you to know what your natural gifts are and how to use them. And I also want you to understand what motivates you. And then we're going to set those goals that really matter to you. And that's where our focus is going to be this week. Being very crystal clear on what you want and how to ask for it, and then actually get it, right? Asking and knowing that you're worthy and you deserve to get what you want. And identify what fears you have and to learn how to overcome those fears that are stopping you. So those are my intentions. That's what we're creating, and we're doing it together. Are you in?
Yes.
Yes. All right. So what came up for you guys after doing last week's exercises?
I had an epiphany.
Oh, okay. Share.
All right. So I was at home looking over my pricing for everything, and we have always been less expensive, more cost effective than the other publications. But I realized when I was having fun with the margin calculator.
Which, did you share that with us already or no?
Yeah, I sent it to you last week.
Okay, good.
That I was thinking when I set the pricing low that people would flock to me because my pricing was so much lower than everybody else's. And actually what I think I've done is devalue my product and my business.
Yes, you have, Miss Anne-Marie.
So I didn't feel bad then, because when I have in the past raised the prices, I'm always like, oh, but I don't feel bad about it now.
Mm-hmm. Good.
We're able to offer more things to them. I'm really going to start working on getting bundles together.
All right.
And I think maybe if I had not set my pricing in the very beginning so low, I might would have actually had more clients.
Well, and definitely, and this is an epiphany that I had when I was first doing this, is it definitely makes the work feel more worth it, I guess, because whether you're charging the low end or the high end, you're still providing the same service. And sometimes when we price ourselves too low, we really start to question if it's worth it, or is this what we're supposed to do? So excellent. All right. Was that the only one?
Yes.
All right. All right, Kathy, what about you?
I pretty much had the same epiphany. And I realized that even though this is the 3rd week, I realized that I've actually devalued myself.
Oh, okay.
Trying to do the same thing that Anne-Marie does, trying to keep things affordable for everybody. But then when I'm working on their books, I see, yeah, they can afford a whole lot more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So in the pricing aspect, I feel like I've devalued myself as a professional and my education, because that costs. I mean, it all costs.
You invest
to get where I am now.
Absolutely.
So I think I need to restructure a few things.
Okay, excellent. That is excellent. And I'm just gonna plant this seed for right now, because we're gonna go over this. We're gonna go over this specifically, like really working on it next week. But start thinking about you're already working on the bundles. So start thinking about how fast you can implement the new pricing. Right? And start thinking about when you implement that pricing, how many do you want to close on that pricing? So we're coming up almost like the end of February. So we're going to set goals starting in March. So think about how you want to do that. Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So here we are. That's what we were getting, a can-do attitude. And we were learning to communicate with ourselves in a positive manner. And it looks like you guys totally nailed it, and understanding your value and what you can do. So that's perfect. And so today we're over here at understanding your personal standards. That's what we're going to talk about today. Like really getting crystal clear on what your personal standards and values are. And we want you to understand what change you need to make to get the results that you want, and how to identify the standards you're currently living by. I really want to open up your eyes to the standards that you have been living by, either consciously or subconsciously. And then we're going to start working on creating our personal mission statement. So that's the result of today's training. So what are personal standards? They are the minimum standards that you set for yourself. Like these are something unique to you that you base your decisions on. Again, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, these are the standards that you have to do it. And my question to you, and what I want you to keep in the forefront of your mind is, are you living by your standards or someone else's? Answering that question, like, what do you think the answer to that question is right now? We're going to revisit it at the end. Do you think you're living by yours, or do you think you're living by someone else's?
I think when it comes to my children, who take up way more time than they should in my life, I've been living by the probably 1950s standard. And one thing, my son had called me and needed me to go pick him up, or wanted to use my car or something. And I said, no. And normally I will put myself out, or I will give up doing something I need to do so that they can do what they want to do. And so I said no, and he wasn't happy, but he figured something else out.
Exactly.
And so I'm like, hey, that wasn't as hard as I thought it would be. And so, I've been saying no more often.
Well done, Anne-Marie. Good. What about you, Kathy? What do you think the answer to this question is right now?
Actually, I think mine is kind of a combination. But I know what my industry standards are, and I know what a lot of client standards are, and sometimes they're different. Okay. Sometimes I find that I need to educate them, what it takes to do X, Y, Z, so that they see the value in the fee that I charge, for instance.
Okay.
It's kind of a 50-50 combination, and I know I need to change that.
Yeah. And we're going to explore it and kind of make that easier. All right, perfect. So what we want to talk about is setting expectations for ourselves. We got to set the expectations for ourselves first, because it's really easy to allow other people to define what we do if we're not clear on what we expect from ourselves, right? And it is about raising the bar for ourselves. It's about raising what we want to accomplish. And this is something I learned about when from Tony Robbins, and it was years and years ago. I actually have it in a notebook that I wrote it in, and he used to do these I can't remember what he called them now, but you could subscribe to it and you could get these talks. And he talked about understanding the difference between good and exceptional, and understanding that good is not really good. Good is where most people live, because they aren't getting what they want. They're struggling for money. They're struggling with time. They're struggling with relationships, because they're set their expectations at being good. And when you're just good, you don't get good results like everyone thinks. You get medium results, not even medium results. You get the below standard results, right? Because being good doesn't get you where you want to be. And then the next level is great, where you're doing better than most. You're doing better than most, right? You're getting some results, but you're not consistent with your results. Anything that changes or shifts takes you down and knocks you out of the ballpark. And then you have the outstanding, where like everyone thinks, yes, outstanding. And this is where most middle class America lives, right? We have all the things, but we may have things, but we don't have that purpose. We don't have the direction. We don't have the unlimited things that we want, that we are using tools that our credit cards maybe, or we might be leveraging different things in a different way than we really want to, if that makes sense, right? And then finally, there's exceptional. And exceptional, in the definition that I use with my students all the time, is on that place like Olympic athlete level, like where there's this much difference between outstanding and exceptional, but it's that bit of difference where all of the rewards are, all of the amazing rewards are, that in being exceptional and being intentional and creating that little bit more effort to stand apart from everyone else is where the rewards are. So I want you to tell me, who do you think is living that exceptional standard, that exceptional life on all levels, not just one level, right? On financial, relationship, impact, like it hits all of the markers for you. Who do you think it is, Kathy?
I really don't know anybody that lives the way they really truly want to.
Okay. All right. And it doesn't have to be someone you personally know. I mean, it could be like the Oprah Winfrey's of the world. It could be the Michael Phelps of the world. It could be who else is like up there for me? I think Tony Robbins is up there for me. Like anyone that you see, John Maxwell for me, like anyone that you think. I want you guys to put that in your thinking and really think about someone that you can use as a role model for that. I mean, I do have, for me, Chris Casamassa, who's my mentor, he and his partner, Shelly, they do this. They do this for me. I mean, they're within my sphere, right? They're within my realm. I would say that they help me keep reaching for exceptional. What about you, Miss Anne-Marie? Right. So it's amazing. Like we've never thought of this before. Right. Right. And when I have to look at my notebook and see the date of it, because it's been years since I first heard that, but it's totally stuck with me, because this is where most people live, in great and maybe in outstanding. But why aren't we striving for exceptional? Why aren't we really looking for people that inspire us to do that, and looking for ways that we could put that little bit of extra effort in our own lives to get our lives where we want them to go? Because I really want you to understand, before we go and talk about other things, is the amount of effort is not that much more than what you're already doing. And it's even actually more challenging to stay in here, because when things don't go right, then we have more stressors in our lives because we are not over that hump, or not where we want to be. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I want you to keep this in mind. Now, we've got to talk about the differences between principles, values, and paradigms. All right. So principles are natural laws or fundamental truths that are external to you. There's nothing you can do to impact a principle. Okay. They're universal. They're going to produce the predictable results, and they're going to operate with or without them, whether you believe them or not. So the example that I always use for this is gravity. Gravity exists. You can't change it unless you go to another planet, which we can't even do right now. We can only break the atmosphere, right? But gravity is my example of that. Do you guys have an example that like resonates with you? No? On what the principle is? What do you think?
I would say like ocean waves. They're the tides. They're going to come and go, and they're going to come and go in their own time, not when I want to go fishing.
Yeah, exactly. What about you, Emery?
Some places like the Grand Canyon, it's been there for hundreds and hundreds of years, and it does change, but usually not where we can see it.
Right. So I'm going to pull that out a little bit bigger and just say the principle of the Grand Canyon is time is going to like wear down like the river rock, right? It's just going to smooth it out. It's going to do what it does, right? You just got to receive it. Very good. Very good. Okay. Now, when we talk about values, we're then transitioned to talking about the worth or the priority that we place on things, ideas, and principles. And we choose these beliefs and ideas, and it's internally subjective to us and how we see the world. So that's how the values are. And they're influenced by our upbringing, our society, our environment, and then just our personal reflections and relationships. So that's where values are the worth. Principles we can't change. They just exist. Values is how we put the worth and the priority on these things. Does that make sense? Okay, good. And then paradigms are the way an individual perceives, understands, and interprets the surrounding world and mental map, like what you think is possible. And I use this example when I talk about paradigms is we usually get what we expect, which is why we started talking about expectations. But I used to go on business trips with a person, and we would be, in different cities, different restaurants, and we would be at the same restaurant at the same time, having the meal at the same time. She would have a horrible experience, and I would have the best experience ever. Right. And that's part of how our paradigms influence us. Right. And we wear the paradigms sometimes based on our labels, like what our expectation of what a mother should look like, society's expectations on what a wife should look like, or what a friend should look like. Right now, we see it a lot with social media because everyone puts their lives on Facebook, right? But there's an expectation based on other people's stuff of what our lives are supposed to look like. And that's where that's what our perceptions come in and how we relate to those things. And this is one of my favorite things that Stephen Covey said: if you want to make small changes, then you're just going to focus on your behavior. If you want to just make small changes. So if I go back to the slide here, small changes go along this line. So if you're a good and you make small changes, it's just going to move you a little bit further on this line. But if you want to make quantum leap changes, I'm going to go back. Quantum leap changes go from here. You're going to go from good to great. That's a quantum leap change. Going from great to outstanding, that's a quantum leap change, right? You're going to have to make changes in your paradigms and how you perceive your reality, right? So if we go back to week 1, where we talked about suspending reality, this is part of the reason why we did that, because you have to change how you're viewing things to make those transformational changes, right? These are transitions, these are transformations, and you have to change your paradigms to make that happen. But it's pretty exciting to know that all you have to do is change how you perceive things to have a paradigm shift. You just got to look at things differently. Now, what always used to make my head hurt when I think about values and principles and blah, 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 and people say, you got to know your values, you got to know your principles, my head would start to hurt because I didn't understand that they actually work together, right? They actually work together. Your values are your standards of behavior. And going back to what Anne-Marie said about the 1950s version of a mom, like our standards of behavior are like relating to our values, but the principles are the rules or beliefs that are going to govern how we behave. They're like what we say, this is the rule for this. Does that make sense? Okay. So to give you some more examples of that, I put this, I didn't change that slide. I'm sorry, I didn't change that slide. But this is The principle is do what scares you. The value is courage. The principle is be a good listener, and the value is communication. Do you see how they work together? Learning something new every day is the principle. The value is you put the value on learning. Being honest with everyone you know, your value is integrity. Loving yourself, the value is love. Striving to be a little bit better than yesterday, you value excellence. Spending time with your family when that is your principle, then that is your value. Family is first. Family is important. Doing what you love is the principle. Freedom is the value. Does that help you like categorize it a little bit better?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it does.
So what would be a principle that you think you're living by right now, Miss Kathy?
I would say being honest with everyone that I know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just being honest. Okay, Miss Anne Marie.
Doing what scares me.
All right, Miss Courage, yeah. And you guys already know this about yourselves because you're business owners. And for business owners, we have to do a little bit of all these things all the time. Okay. Now, how do you identify the pattern that you're in? How do you do that? And it's going back to Tony Robbins. I'll reference again, asking yourself better questions to get better answers. Okay. So, and this is part of what you're going to work on, but identify the times when you were the happiest. Like when was the time that you were the happiest? And then identify the times when you were the most proud. Right? So these are going to take some thought to do, but these are the things I want you to start helping you identify the patterns by answering these questions. Like, when were you the happiest? When were you the most proud? When did you feel the most fulfilled and satisfied? And then based on the answers to those questions, then I've got in the workbook for you guys a list of values that you can then go through. We're going to go through that for your homework. And then you're going to use that list to whittle your values down to your top 5. Okay. I know this used to make my head hurt so bad, but I don't want it to make your head hurt. I want you to feel your way through it because you'll know. This is where sometimes our paradigms will rear their head, and our paradigms of what we think we should be saying or we think we should be answering will come in. I don't want that to happen here. I want you to just feel your way. When based on your answers to these questions, I want you to circle the ones that resonate with you. Okay. And then once you go through that exercise, and that's in the workbook, then you're going to set your priorities based on what you think is important. Based on your values, then I want you to base your priorities on what you think is important. Like you're new. I want you to do it like you're new. And then I want you to look back at your schedule and see how close or how far you were to doing that already. All right. Because when we're doing that, you got to schedule the time to do the things that matter to you the most first. In the book, I talk about it's Stephen Covey's Stephen Covey's Big Rock principle. You put the big stuff in first, then you fill it with the smaller stuff. And then there's a video. I think I put the link in the book. I'll have to share it on Facebook. And then from there, you can put in sand. And then after the sand, you have room for water. But if you do it in any other order, you can't fit all of the same things in the same space. That's what's so eye-opening about that principle. But when you put it in your priorities first, then fit everything else around it, you're going to see how you're spending your time. But you're going to, more importantly, feel that you're not just wasting time. You're going to not feel as much as if you don't have time for everything, because you're going to be doing the things that matter to you first. And the things you don't get to are the things that really aren't that important to you anyway. We were probably just doing because other people expected us to do it. Okay. And now from there, I want you to work on your personal mission statement. So based on the values that you've identified, and then based on the priorities you set, in the workbook, I've got some more questions that I want you to answer on what is it that you truly, really want to do. We asked this in the beginning in week 1 about impact, but now we're going to bring it down to the very, very specific details of what we're doing, how we're using those skills, how we're using our abilities, and how we are going to use that and come up with a mission that aligns with our values, aligns with our principles, and aligns with our priorities to go into the community and with us in this global community, the world, to change people, to impact people, to help people, to serve people. Does that sound exciting?
Yeah.
I know, right? Okay. But it takes, you're going to have to block off some time for this. And you're going to have to not get overwhelmed with the task. All right. Don't get overwhelmed with this. I want you to have fun with this. I want you to go back to, I told the leadership students on Saturday, it was our impossible possible goal setting, right? I'm going to take what we think right now might be impossible, and we're going to start putting them in step by step to become possible, little baby steps, and having fun with what we think we can create. We did this as an exercise with our leadership students at the karate school, and one of the students wasn't able to come to class. He had a different obligation, but he actually did the impossible possible homework assignment because he was watching an MMA match, and he was saying, wouldn't it be great if we had Master Huff and Cynthia Rothrick, and I don't remember the MMA woman, like that we're all like different women in martial arts leading the way in a different way. And if we all got together in one seminar. And I laughed and I said, so that's not as impossible as you think. A, because I already have met Cynthia Rothrick. I've met her at a conference and talked to her a few times. I said, B, my mentor is still involved in the entertainment industry. C, another organization we're affiliated with is still in the MMA world and the movie business. I think we already have the connections to make that happen if we really want to make it possible. How cool is that? He looked at me and was like, whoa. So that's what I want you to create. All right. So I've already kind of given you your assignment for this week. You're going to go through the values list in the workbook, and you're going to circle all of the values that feel good to you based on your answers to your questions. And then I want you to go down to your top 5 to 7, but I want you to put them in priority for you. And then you're going to answer the questions under the personal mission statement with the values that you chose in mind. Not the ones that you might be living right now, but with the ones that you know that you want to choose. So that's going to be the twist, right? Because we're going to try and revert back and try and let our paradigms come in. So with the values that you chose in mind when you're answering the personal mission statement. And don't judge your answers. Don't judge them. Just write them. Whatever they come out like. That's going to be tricky too. But don't judge them. And give yourself the gift of imagining the life that you want to live right now. Right? We're going back to that thing of excellence. We want to be living in exceptional. So that's the life that we're creating with the answering to these questions. Does that make sense? Okay. All right. I think that's my last slide. I just want you to remember you get to choose who you want to be and what you want to stand for. You get to choose. And this is right now the moment that you choose it. Don't worry about the how. Don't worry about the obstacles. Don't worry about other people's opinions. None of that matters. Right now, we're choosing who we want to be. And we are going to create, and we'll figure out how to overcome all that other stuff later. But right now, we're making a choice. All right. So how does that sound? Does it sound overwhelming? Does it sound fun? Does it sound doable?
I think it's doable. And it's really going to make me stop and think just a little bit more, slow down and actually take time to do this, not just throw something together and run out the door.
And I need to put it on the slide, but I want you guys to forgive yourself. Like,
Yeah.
to forgive yourself for not being that value already. That's where like the don't judge comes in. You've got to, if you start feeling like that negative self-talk come up or those negative statements come up, I want you to just say, I forgive me. I forgive me for not doing this or not being this or not creating this. Like, go ahead and give yourself the gift of forgiveness too, because that's where we all get stuck too. We'll get stuck in our own heads and judge ourselves. And then that's where the imposter syndrome stuff comes in. And that's where we feel like, well, who am I to do this? And all of that will start coming into play. But the quickest way is just to forgive yourself for not being that. And then follow up that statement with I am proud of myself for. And that's going to help you combat those feelings. So I might need to add that to the homework for later, but forgive and then proud. Like, make sure you give yourself credit for being proud of your accomplishments, being proud of where you are right now, being proud of some of the choices that you made that you know were the right choices. Don't beat yourself up for bad decisions, bad choices. That's how we learn. So, some choices that I made last April inspired me to take action that I wouldn't have taken had I not made those choices. So even those choices, and good and bad is not it. They created a space that I had to do things differently. So just kind of keep that in mind. So it's not a bad thing. It goes back to our paradigms and how we perceive them and how we choose to reflect on them to keep us moving forward. Okay. All right. What about you, Miss Anne Marie?
What was the question?
How do you feel about this? I know I told you principles and values and paradigms, they always used to make my head hurt. So I wanted to simplify process and allow you to use your gut and use your emotions. So does it feel like it's doable or does it feel overwhelming?
No, I think it feels doable. And I think it's fun to actually stop and speak and write down where you want to be and believe that is going to happen.
Yeah. Yeah. Because again, this is tapping into the power of our subconscious brain. So once we start telling ourselves this is what we want, then we'll start creating it. We'll start doing things and taking steps and being in a way that we weren't before because we weren't wanting this or we didn't think that we wanted this. Right. So that's like the cool brain hack. The brain hack, like really utilizing the power of our subconscious and how powerful our minds are and how we've been made to function. It's really exciting. It's really exciting.
One of the things that I've learned recently with everything I've been doing is you can't say, I want to be rich. You can say, I want to be able to pay all of my bills. I want this amount of money coming in per month. You've got to be very specific about what you want.
Yes.
It can't just be a general comment.
Right. It's got to be something that excites you. It's got to be something that moves you forward. It's got to be something that you're going to act on, whether you think so or not. Right. Our subconscious dictates that a lot to us. So we've got to like change it up, rewrite the programming, rewrite the script on that. And then make sure that we put it someplace where we see it so that I wanted to, I'm not even going to lie. I totally want to sit down and read a book that I bought the other day because I that's what I did while the Super Bowl was on. Sorry. I read a book, and of course, I'd rather do that than do kind of what me and Anne Marie were doing before the meeting, is that like working on my marketing and my messaging and like recording all these videos that I may or may not want to do. Right. Of course, because that's challenging me and pushing me in a different way. Right. So just know that if you're feeling that desire, remember what your outcome is. Like my outcome is to impact 1,000 families in Fayetteville. Not just one member, all members. And in order to do that, I have to do those things. Right? So then it helps me transition and get out of that uncertainty, scared into action. Okay. All right. Are you guys excited for the week? No.
Yeah.
Okay. And then this is going to be the foundation for what we work on next week, where next week we're going to actually set some goals. So we're doing this in the middle of a quarter. So we're going to set goals on 2 levels. So again, I want you guys to start thinking about this. We're going to set goals on how you want to finish the first quarter. And then we're going to set goals on how you want to finish the year. So we're going to do some short-term goals, and then we're going to do a longer-term goal. We're not going to do anything outside of the 12 months because I want to help you guys work backwards and set metrics on each month for what you need to achieve, so that as you're looking and evaluating, you know what's working, what's not working. And then where to keep it at the same pace, where to pull off, where to go forward, that kind of thing. So that's what we're going to get to do next week. All right. And it's going to be exciting. And it's, I went on thanks to Anne-Marie, I was a part of a challenge last week, and they talked about gamification. And this is a way to gamify it for ourselves. This is a way for us to gamify it for ourselves. All right. So that's what we're doing. I'm excited.